FM. Florida hosting South Florida on Saturday night. Likewise, that game can be heard right here on 1010XL. And Friday night, Florida State, 48 hours from now, will be on the field taking on the Louisville Cardinals in their ACC opener. We got a lot to get into. We're glad you're with us. It is a Wednesday night. Oh, by the way, little birdies named Dylan Denmark, tell me that we have tickets to give away to Florida and South Florida in Gainesville on Saturday. If you want to go see the Florida Gators, you will have an opportunity to go see the Florida Gators coming up here a little bit later on during Hacker After Dark. Let me set the scene for you. We're jam-packed tonight, as you can imagine. Matt Hayes of XL Primetime. You also get him on Saturday down south. He and I would have some very, I won't say heated conversations. Dialogue. Yeah, we'd have some good, solid dialogue back in the days of XL Primetime. Matt's going to join me tonight. We're going to look around the world of college football. Tyler Sullivan, my buddy from CBSSports.com, to take a good look around the National Football League as we start getting ready for Week 2. Week 2 kicks off tomorrow night with the Chargers and the Chiefs. Boy, a good one on Thursday Night Football. We'll go to Tallahassee. Patrick Burnham will join us of the Osceola covering Florida State as they are getting ready for that Louisville matchup on Friday. And finally, at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, we'll go to Indianapolis. Derek Schultz, ISC Sports Network up in Indianapolis. We've had Derek on for years. He's kind of our guy up in Indy. What is the Colts' perspective of this game coming up on Sunday between themselves and the Jacksonville Jaguars? But as we do every night here on Hacker After Dark, we kick it off with a big deal of the night and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Okay, I am talking to Jacksonville Jaguar fans right now and to Florida Gator fans right now. That's who I'm talking to. And the reason I'm talking to you is because last weekend did not work out well. No question about it. Last weekend did not work out the way you wanted it to work out. Florida, you were on cloud nine after beating Utah. You thought everything was great as a Gator fan. And lo and behold, that happens against Kentucky, so now you feel like you're back to square one. Jaguar fans, you did not know what to expect. We didn't either. Nobody did. You think 14-3, oh my gosh, same old, they're going to be awful. Then Jacksonville rattles off 19 unanswered, takes a 22-14 lead with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. You think, wow, they might get it done. They might break this road losing streak. They could legitimately start 1-0, only to have Washington score back-to-back touchdowns and beat you 28-22. So it was not a good 16 hours, 18 hours between Saturday night and Sunday afternoon if you were a Gator fan and if you were a Jaguar fan. If you were a fan of both, it was really bad. But that's why I wanted to bring this up. Who do you have more confidence in for the rest of the football season? If you're a fan of both the Jaguars and the Florida Gators, if you're a Jagator, right? Fiercest animal on earth. I still have the t-shirt. Doesn't fit me as well as it probably did back in 1998, but I still have it in the attic somewhere. If you're a fan of both, who do you have more confidence in? Legitimate question. 641-1010 on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Or feel free to hit me up on the phone line at 641-1010. Do you have more confidence that Anthony Richardson and Billy Napier and the Florida Gators can turn things around, get back on the winning track? In fact, they did beat Utah. That wasn't a dream. That did happen. Or do you have more confidence in Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence and that the Jaguars are going to turn things around quicker? I'm curious where you're at. If you look at one side of it, right, you look at the Florida Gator side. They're 1-1. They got some tough games coming up. Tough games. Tennessee, that is a tough game. LSU will be a tough game by then. They will know what they're doing under Brian Kelly. That will be a tough game. At Texas A&M at that point of the year will be a tough game. Georgia, yeah. And going to Tallahassee. Boy, how's that looking now? You confident about that one still, Gator fan? Going to Doak Campbell on Black Friday? It could potentially be a long year in Gainesville if they don't figure some things out pretty quick. Likewise, on the Jacksonville Jaguars side of things, look, they play the entire AFC West. They play the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Raiders. Their next 3 games are home against Indianapolis, at the Chargers, at the Eagles. This season could get away from you pretty quick. But there were positives on Sunday in Washington, no doubt about that. They're clearly better than they have been in years past. I know it was unbelievably disappointing if you're a fan of both Florida and Jacksonville. The last weekend didn't go your way. Take it from myself. I'm a Wolfson grad. I lost Friday night with under 2 minutes to go to Providence. I lost to Kentucky, being an objective broadcast journalist, but on the Gator radio station here in Jacksonville. I lost Sunday again as an objective broadcast journalist when the Jaguars lost. And then Taylor Dahl beat me in the 1010XL Fantasy League. So that's where my life was. But I've gotten over it. I've moved past it. I'm looking forward. I'm looking to what's coming up down the road.
Your son also beat you in your picks, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you, Denmark. My 3-year-old son, Little Hacker, beat me in the picks last week. That's how my football season has started. By the way, the most popular segment on Hacker After Dark per the week, bar none, is Hack and Little Hack make the picks. That will happen tomorrow night here on Hacker After Dark, as Little Hacker has worked me into his schedule, and we will get that done and air it for you tomorrow evening. But you got to look forward. There's no point in dwelling on the Kentucky loss if you're a Florida fan. It's over. You can't do anything about it. There's no point anymore in dwelling on the Washington loss. We've discussed it. What worked, what didn't work, things we'd like to see different. You got to move on. Indianapolis is coming in here, and they're desperately seeking a win. Think about the bad taste the Colts have in their mouth. Wait till you hear from Derek Schultz up in Indy later on in the program. They were down 20-3 to Houston. 20-3. They come storming back to tie it at 20-20. They have a 42-yard field goal in overtime to win it. Former Georgia Bulldog kicker Rodrigo Blankenship misses. They flat out cut him. He's gone. One kick, bam, gone. So Indianapolis does have some kicking problems. That's something to keep in mind coming in here on Sunday. Chase McLaughlin, I believe, is who they signed. Didn't he have a cup of coffee here in Jacksonville last year? I think the Jaguars signed like 20 kickers last year. I want to say Chase McLaughlin was one of them. Anyway, it looks like he's going to be the kicker for the Colts. But the point being, on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures at 641-1010, do you, as a Jaguar and a Gators supporter, have more confidence in Florida or Jacksonville the remainder of the way? 2 first-year head coaches, right? Billy Napier, Doug Peterson. 2 quarterbacks with all kind of prestige coming into the year. Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence. Did not perform well last weekend. You could make the case all 4 of them did not perform well. Although, I have very little problem with Doug Peterson. I thought Trevor struggled in the first half. I didn't particularly think Napier called a great game, nor his coaching staff did. And Richardson certainly struggled. Doug Peterson, I don't have much issue with what he did. I mean, going forward on 4th down, I wouldn't have done it. But heck, Travis Etienne was wide open. If he catches the ball, it's a walk-in touchdown. Going for 2, in the situation they went for 2, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm kind of splitting hairs at that point. But the bottom line is both Napier in Gainesville and Peterson here in Jacksonville have a big opportunity this weekend. And Napier's going to. Look, South Florida is awful. They are bad. And they're surprisingly bad. I mean, you're in Tampa. You're in a market that, look, I mean, there's really good college football in that part of the state. They don't have an on-campus stadium. They don't have great facilities. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, I mean, look, South Florida was number 2 in the country, 10 years ago? Remember Jim Leavitt had the South Florida Bulls at number 2 in the country? Remember when quarterback B.J. Daniels led them into Tallahassee and beat Florida State? To say that they have regressed in the last 10 years would be an understatement. And I really don't understand why that's happened. When you look at the success of UCF and Orlando, USF has simply just not been able to do that in Tampa. So this is a get-right game for Florida, and they need it. Because they have a tough one coming up in 10 days going to Knoxville to take on Tennessee at Neyland Stadium. For the Jaguars, it's not a get-right game at all. They're underdogs. Indianapolis coming in. What are they, a 4-point favorite, I believe, is what I saw. But as we start shifting gears, looking towards the Indianapolis Colts, strange things about this series. Indianapolis has not won a game in Jacksonville, Florida since 2014. How is that possible? With as bad as the Jaguars have been over the last 8 years, how is that possible? Now, one of the games was in London, so they didn't have the chance to win in Jacksonville. But every other game here, the 1-15 year, what was that, 2020, 1-15, opening day, Jacksonville beats Indianapolis because Phillip Rivers wanted no part of Andrew Wingard. Remember, C.J. Henderson had an interception in that game too, making his Jaguar debut of what would be just an illustrious 19-game Jaguar career. Last year, the Colts win and they're in, right? Jacksonville beat them to death on January the 9th. Just beat them in every part of football. Talking with Derek Schultz up in Indianapolis earlier, I had forgotten this. They refer to it as the Cody Kessler game. Remember Cody Kessler here in Jacksonville? Yeah, he started a game where the Jaguars beat the Colts. Indianapolis, this has been a house of horrors for the Colts. Kind of like what Nashville is to the Jaguars, Jacksonville is to the Colts. And that is a big topic up there in Indy. They want to break this streak. And if you're Jacksonville, look, you played good enough to win on the road last week. You're coming home. You've had success against this football team in years past. You win the game, it completely erases what happened in Washington. Completely erases it. But remember the talk all offseason. Just get me to Thanksgiving, right? Let Jacksonville be competitive, be in the hunt until Thanksgiving. We don't want draft talk for Halloween again. Absolutely. But look at that schedule, man. After Indy, you go to the Chargers and you go to the Eagles. You got to beat Indy. You don't beat Indy, you're staring 0-4 in the face. And if you're 0-4, you're in a bad situation. If you beat Indy and then somehow, some way split 1-1 between at Chargers, at Eagles, you're 2-2 in the first 4, this city would be over the moon with that. But it all comes down to beating Indianapolis on Sunday at TIAA Bank Field. Matt Hayes, XL Primetime, also Saturday Down South coming up. You know what's interesting? I bet you we're going to spend some time with Matt Hayes, my buddy, my sports radio partner, on the Gators and the South Florida Bulls. And because we're going to spend some time on the Gators and the South Florida Bulls, and Denmark, because I'm just such a hell of a nice guy, quite frankly. Not to pat myself on the back, but man, I am just a nice dude. I'm going to take caller 4 right now. If you want to go to Gainesville, on Saturday for USF and Florida. Be caller 4 right now, 641-1010, and Dylan Denmark will hook you up with a pair of tickets to South Florida, 7:30 on Saturday night. Matt Hayes of XL Primetime next on Hacker After Dark.
Catch the Jacksonville Jaguars every day.
Jaguars Today from the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios.
With Mike Dempsey and Fat Tony talking teal every weekday from 10 to noon.
Jaguars Today
on 1010XL.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the Southeast to offer multi-unit hair grafting and the 45-minute PRP treatments. Grow your hair back. Call now for a free in-person evaluation. 904-777-IHRS, 904-777-4477, or visit hairforme.com.
With the first pick in the 2022 draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Duck Duck Rooter, the best plumbing and septic company in Florida.
Congratulations, Duck Duck Rooter. So tell us, how does it feel to be picked number one?
Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services is excited to announce we're a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When you need help tackling any type of plumbing or septic issue, call our team of first-round draft picks for the win. DuckDuckRooter.com. That's DuckDuckRooter.com.
Life is short, and if we spend our time suffering with pain and it takes away our joy, that's not a very good way to live.
He's right. It's hard to be happy when you're in constant pain. QC Kinetics patient Chad admits the chronic pain in his knee really robbed his quality of life.
When I was going to the traditional doctor and getting the pain pills, my smile wasn't as big as it usually is. Going to my high school reunion on crutches, it was awful.
But then Chad visited QC Kinetics. He experienced the real power behind natural regenerative treatments. Using healing properties from his own body, QC Kinetics was able to restore and repair damaged tissue, finally giving Chad lasting relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime.
And I'm feeling on top of the world because of QC Kinetics.
Learn how advanced regenerative medicine can help your body heal itself at QC Kinetics. Call now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
Hey, Matt Hayes here, and I took my car to Expert Automotive on Beach Boulevard. Check this out. They saved me more than 25% on my repair. Plus, they offer a free lifetime warranty on all repairs. Think about that. I never have to pay for that service again. Crazy good deal. Cleanest waiting room I've ever seen, unbelievable service techs, and their customer service is the best, period. They really don't sell greed, just what you need. Check out their amazing Google reviews and visit expertautojacks.com. Expert Automotive on Beach and Peach. Go see him.
I'm Jeff McCall for Trustline Mortgage, along with my business partners Alan Tyre, Bill Pappas, and Ken Rimley, have been in business for 32 years. We've seen some incredible mortgage markets. Many of our clients took advantage of these markets to refinance their properties. They lowered their payments, took cash out for college tuition, did renovations, shortened their terms, got rid of their mortgage insurance, even consolidated their debts into one easy small payment. Well, that opportunity is here again right now for you. These rates are extremely low. However, the market is starting to move in a different direction. Inflation, as you know, is already here. Look at the cost of gas, milk, lumber. Don't miss out because you put it off and didn't call. No one wants to hear years from now, I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. Be a person that gets things done. Call Trustline Mortgage now at 381-LOAN. I'm serious. Call 381-LOAN now while it's fresh on your mind, or visit our website at trustlinemortgage.com. Trust your instincts and follow the line to Trustline Mortgage.
Certain restrictions apply. See office for details. Trustline is an equal housing lender. NMLS number 331480.
Attention sports fans, your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the chance to cash in on all of your favorite leagues, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the tables. Sign up at BetUS.com or call 1-800-79-BETUS and get into the action. Don't forget to mention promo code RADIO. BetUS, where the game begins.
Keeping your body healthy and active leads to a more vibrant life. A great place to do that is the First Coast YMCA. The Y is equipped with state-of-the-art cardio and strength equipment, plus group exercise studios where trainers host activities like yoga, Zumba, and cycling sessions. The full-court basketball gym and indoor 5-lane swimming pool are open year-round. The Kids Zone can keep an eye on your kids while you work on that dad bod. And it's all available with your family membership. Learn more at fcymca.org.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Pella Windows and Doors. These intense summer storms are a good reminder to visit the Pella showroom on Phillips Highway. Check out Pella's new Hurricane Shield and Defender series. These amazing windows exceed all coastal requirements for storm protection. Seriously, they can withstand the impact of a 2x4 shot out of a cannon at 50 feet per second. You want quality style and protection? Visit PellaJacks.com and the showroom on Phillips Highway right next to Tesla. That's Pella Windows and Doors.
Time now for a medical recap. A health and wellness tip from Jaguars head team physician Dr. Kevin Kaplan.
Regular movement is key to so many health benefits. Aim for at least 10,000 steps a day. Decide to only take the stairs if you're walking less than 6th floor. Never park in the first 10 spaces of the parking lot. Walk during your work breaks. Get up 10 minutes earlier in the morning and take a short, brisk walk before the chaos of the day starts. There are so many easy ways to stay active. Let's get moving, Jacksonville.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On September 14, 2003, Ravens running back Jamal Lewis rushed for an NFL record 295 yards against Cleveland.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. Now, another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. College football getting into the meat of the September slate coming up this Saturday. Florida, South Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Miami, Texas A&M, just to name a few. Let's talk about it all with Matt Hayes. You get him every day on XL Primetime. You also read him at Saturday Down South. Matt, how are you, man?
Doing great, Hack. How are you?
Hey, Matt, we're good, buddy. Thank you for the time. And let's recap a little bit what happened in Gainesville last week. I know we need to shift our focus forward, but, Matt, is Anthony Richardson, is this Gator program the team we saw against Utah or the team we saw against Kentucky? Because that was a pretty drastic difference in a 7-day stretch.
Well, it was a drastic difference, Hack, because they chose philosophically to do something different. There's a big conflict down there in Gainesville right now among the staff about what they do with Anthony Richardson, because he is better when he can run the ball, because that sets up the throw for them. And he's, when you put him in a position where he's got to pass all the time, there's more pressure on him. I think he's very talented. I think he can throw the ball. He's definitely a thrower. But I think his complete game is a guy who can run and throw, a lot like Cam Newton, a lot like Vince Young. And I know those are crazy comparisons, but that's the type of player he needs to be. Now, the question is, and the dilemma in Gainesville is, do you run him? Because if you run him more, then you risk injury. And if he gets injured, you've got nothing behind him. So, and then the point becomes, what do you do then? Then you're looking at a 5-7 season or 4-8 season. And then the other side of that coin is, well, if you don't run him and you just throw the ball, then you're looking at, okay, this is what plays out against Kentucky. So I think they got to the point where against Utah, they ran for 240 yards, 250 yards. And they probably thought, all right, well, we ran the ball in Utah. Let's just run the ball in Kentucky with our running backs, and we'll try and save him. And it's just not going to work. He's got to run the ball. That's got to be part of his game. And I think you'll see that maybe not as much this week against South Florida, because I think you can get by with him not running as much. He might run the ball 6, 7, 8 times this week. But beginning with the SEC slate, Hack, he's going to run the ball. It's going to be like Utah. And you've got to risk for that reward. And if he gets hurt, then he gets hurt. I mean, that's just, that's no different than any other player on the team. And I think they're probably going to eventually resign themselves to that, look, this is the way it is. We've got to do it this way.
And that goes into the depth issue that we all talked about coming out of the spring, into the summer, and into fall drills. They just don't have a lot at certain positions, which includes the backup quarterback. And heck, even if Jack Miller was healthy, the guy's never taken a snap, right, in college football. So
it's that, Hack. You're exactly right. It's also, look, this is what you deal with when you get a dual threat quarterback. When you get a guy who's really good at running the ball and really good at stressing defenses, this is part of the deal that comes with it. He could get hurt, so he's gonna take some shots. He's a big dude, and he'll do a lot of that quarterback power stuff. So it's not like he's a 5'11", 995-pound little scat quarterback that can get out of bounds and know how to get down. He's gonna run with power, so he's going to take hits.
South Florida is not very good. I watched them against BYU. That was awful. They were even messing around with Howard before they pulled away in the second half. I know you guys had Jeff Scott, the head coach of South Florida, on XL Primetime earlier this week. I mean, this is a get-right game for the Gators, correct, on Saturday night?
It definitely is. It's so weird, too, Hack. Of all those Clemson assistants, I really thought Jeff Scott would be successful because he's just such a – he's a guy that really relates well to young kids. He's a terrific recruiter. He's really smart at what he does as far as the game, X's and O's. I thought for sure he would do really well at USF, and then he would develop into a bigger Power 5 job. And they have just struggled every year he's been there. It's odd. They've fallen further behind UCF now as far as, because their kind of measuring bar in the state and as overall for their program is UCF. They're very similar schools on a very similar track. They're 70 miles away from each other, so they recruit the same fan base, same player base, and they've fallen way behind UCF.
I want to get in again. Matt Hayes here with us, XL Primetime, also Saturday Down South. I want to get into Miami and certainly Florida State. Final thought on the SEC as a whole, particularly the Eastern Division. This should not come as a surprise to Gator fans, Matt. Every preseason publication, I think, had Florida either third or fourth in the East. The thought was around the conference that Georgia, Kentucky, and even Tennessee were better than Florida. Is that the way you see it after 2 weeks?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I think Georgia is certainly. And Kentucky, Kentucky beat them. The other day, though, they made a choice in that Kentucky game. The choice was not to run the zone read stuff with Anthony Richardson. That probably cost them the game. So I think you'll see them veer away from that from now on in SEC games. So we'll see. I mean, every team is different. Each week is different. I think they'll grow. I think some of those young guys in the second level, the second part of the two deep will get better, and you'll be able to trust them on the field more. But right now, Hack, they're in a situation, especially on defense, where I don't know that they can trust too many people. And you get to the third quarter, deep in the third quarter and early the fourth quarter, and you're going to see what Utah did, and you're going to see what Kentucky did. People are just going to line up and start running the ball right down their throats and shortening the game and putting even more pressure on the Florida offense to be, flawless every time they come on the field. And that's the smart thing to do right now. And they're going to have to deal with that and figure out a response to that, whether it's, trusting more players or whether it's running Anthony Richardson more. I think it'll be a little of both.
Yeah, Florida, South Florida, Saturday night. The game will be heard right here on 1010XL. But, boy, that Tennessee game in Knoxville, Big Orange Country, will be ready for the Florida Gators coming in there in about a week and a half. Matt Hayes of XL Primetime here with us on Hacker After Dark. All right, Matt, Friday night, Florida State goes to Louisville. Florida State at 2-0. Have a real opportunity to go to 3-0. And, look, I was under the assumption that Louisville wasn't very good, and then they go into Orlando last week and beat a UCF team on the road, which is a good win for Louisville. So now I don't know what to make of this game on Friday night.
Yeah, it's what, Hack, is the Louisville defense is really good. I think they were pretty good last year in a few games, and they just got overwhelmed because they couldn't score. They struggled to score. Malik Cunningham's getting better. He's getting smarter with his decisions. They went from a team that was desperate for a win going into a tough environment like that. It's not easy to go down there to UCF and win. That place gets crazy, and UCF is a pretty good team. I mean, you saw it last year. They beat Florida in that bowl game, so they're a pretty good team. So this will be a test for Florida State. Louisville goes back home. They're feeling good about themselves right now. They got that win. I think the best thing that could have happened for Florida State would have been a Louisville loss, because then you're at 0-2 and you're thinking Louisville's in the tank already. But they're feeling good about themselves. it's a big game for Florida State, I think, because you need to back up that LSU game, and you've had 2 weeks to prepare. If they go in there Hackett and they land a dud, and it's just like they just don't play well and they lose and it's not really close, that's a red flag because you've beaten an SEC team to start the season. And however you want to look at that LSU team, it's still an SEC team with some players. It doesn't have a full complement of a roster, but there's still guys in that team. You beat that team, and it was a crazy way to beat them, but who cares? You beat them. You have 2 weeks to prepare for a conference opponent that, is probably the lower tier of the conference. If you're Florida State and you truly are on the rebound and this is going to be a 8, 9, 10 win season, you have got to win this game. So if something happens and Jordan Travis regresses a little bit, and they don't play that well, and they don't run the ball that well, and they get stuck in this crazy environment, which it'll be a good environment there Friday. It'll be loud there. And they lose that game, it's definitely a step back for Florida State.
And look, we know what's in the future schedule for Florida State. Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson, Miami. I mean, this is a game they need to get on Friday night.
You can't fool around here. Yeah, you cannot fool around.
There's no doubt about that. Matt Hayes of XL Primetime as we begin to wrap up. Florida State, Louisville on Friday night. I love Saturday night. Boy, I'm going to have to get a little nap in for a 9 o'clock Eastern kickoff Saturday night. Miami and Texas A&M. Boy, Matt, game day was supposed to be there. Everything was set for a top 15 battle between these two. And lo and behold, App State goes into College Station and beats the Aggies. So now I don't know what to make of A&M. I think Miami's pretty good. But this is a game that's very scary now for Miami. If they beat A&M, well, they beat a down A&M team. And if you lose to A&M, well, you lost to the team that lost to App State. So they're kind of in a quandary right now heading into College Station.
Well, this is also a situation where you're going to see the best game. I'm not sure had Texas A&M beaten App State, you would have seen the quote-unquote best game. Now you've got a desperate Texas A&M team. Now they want to show they're not the team that lost to App State. Now you're probably going to see a new quarterback because the guy who should have been the quarterback all along, Max Johnson, the kid from LSU, who's really played well the last 2 years at LSU despite playing in a complete dysfunctional mess for 2 seasons. He had a 35-7 touchdown to interception ratio on those two teams that were just completely dysfunctional and without leadership. So I look at that. I think Jimbo's going to make the decision at some point. Look, I got to go with the guy that can complete passes, that can move the offense. He knows what he has now in Haynes King. Heck, he's played 3 games against, frankly, bad competition. Kent State, Sam Houston State, and App State. App State's not bad, but they're certainly group of 5 level. And he has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. You know what you have in this guy now, okay? I mean, three games is enough to see what you've got. So I think he's going to move to Max Johnson. I think you're going to see a different Texas A&M offense, and the Aggies are going to play hard, man. And that place will be crazy. That's a tough spot for Miami to go into.
Yeah, I know. I agree. You think you can almost sneak up on them if you're Miami. If Texas A&M beats App State, that obviously did not happen. And so, yeah, we're going to find out pretty quick about Mario Cristobal, about Tyler Van Dyke on Saturday night, again, a 9 o'clock kick out there in College Station. Matt, leave us with 2 final thoughts. Number 1, does Georgia have any issue with South Carolina on Saturday?
It'll be a fun game, Hack. This is what South Carolina has pointed to all offseason. They spent 10 months completely retooling that offense with not only with Spencer Rattler, with Austin Stogner, the tight end, with Christian Bill Smith, the running back, with Antoine Juice Wells, the wide receiver, with Corey Rucker, the wide receiver. Corey Rucker might play this week, which is huge. This guy had 9 touchdowns last year at Arkansas State, which would hugely benefit that offense. Christian Bill Smith looks like he might be ready to go full go. He played last week but didn't get a carry, and he just didn't look ready. He and Rucker both been having nagging injuries. But if they have that full offense, Hack, they're going to at some point start to click. It's a lot of guys that haven't been together, and they've worked the entire offseason to get to this point. Their offensive line's a little shaky, but at some point that offense is going to click, and when they do, they're going to score a ton of points on somebody. I don't know that it's going to be this weekend, but it'll be you want to talk about a crazy atmosphere. That place at Williams-Brice Stadium, even in a noon kick, will be wild for Georgia. It'll be a tough environment.
Yeah, they put some points on Arkansas last week in a losing effort. Matt, final thought. It's a good slate of SEC games. I mean, you got Mississippi State, LSU. You got Penn State, Auburn. What really strikes you coming into this Saturday in the conference?
There's a couple of them, man. You look at Mississippi. I think Mississippi State is a terrific team. I've been saying all off season that if you look at Mike Leach's quarterbacks, Hack, both at Texas Tech and Washington State, the guys that stay for 3 years and start for 3 years, by their third year, they have big seasons, and the team has big seasons. You look at it, it just happens. Graham Harrell did it. Cliff Kingsbury did it. Luke Falk did it at Washington State. So that's how it works with his offense. And they've got a really, really good defense. Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator there, he's going to be a head coach very, very soon. If not at the end of this season, very soon after that. They're good, Hack. They're really good. I don't know if you watched last week against Arizona. And again, it's Arizona that was 1-11 last year. But Arizona was coming off a big win against San Diego State, which is a good team. And Arizona had completely revamped their roster under Jed Fish, the former Jags assistant. And Arizona was playing well, and Mississippi State just went in there and just absolutely annihilated them. So I really like Mississippi State. And if Brian Kelly goes 0-2 to start out at LSU, they won't be happy. I mean, they're not going to run them off. But all I'm saying is the folks in LSU and the Red Stick will not be happy. And then, of course, it's Auburn and Penn State, man. That's the loser of that game, Hack. Their fan bases are going to be furious. Because if you're Penn State and you're James Franklin and you're starting Sean Clifford, a 60-year senior quarterback, you feel good about a freshman running back and a freshman receiver. You feel good about where you are after 2 weeks. You go down to Auburn and lose to a team that's basically scrambling for their very life. Man, James Franklin's going to be in some trouble, okay, with that fan base. I don't think he's going to get fired, but that fan base is not going to be happy. And as far as Auburn, Penn State goes in there and wins that game like 24-9, something like that. Because look, Auburn does not have a quarterback right now. So let's say Penn State goes in there and just it's an ugly but like efficient win, 24-9. Boy, now you've got problems if you're Brian Harsin, because that'll be 3 straight games of a quarterback that just looks terrible. And right now, if you don't have a quarterback, I mean, what do you got, right?
There's no doubt about it. Look, it's a good Saturday. Auburn survived San Jose State last week. They will not be able to play like that against Penn State and survive this Saturday. Matt Hayes, always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. You get him every day on XL Primetime. And, of course, you can read his great stuff at SaturdayDownSouth.com. Matt, thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, my bro. See you.
There you go, Matt Hayes, every day on XL Primetime, Saturday Down South. Love the conversation with Matt. Matt and I never had a problem. That was always funny to us. People thought when we were together on XL Primetime, but I always get the, gosh, what goes on during the breaks with you and Matt, the back and forth, it gets heated. No, it's just dialogue, man. It's conversation. That's what makes sports radio go round, and we love it, and I always enjoy Matt and thank him for coming on here on Hacker After Dark. Yeah, the 4 big ones in our area. Georgia, their conference opener at South Carolina. Florida State, their conference opener at Louisville. Miami, they have a real opportunity to make a big statement going to Texas A&M. And, of course, Florida hosts South Florida Saturday night, 7:30 on the SEC Network on the TV side, right here on 1010XL on the radio side. You will get that game on Saturday evening. Back into the world of the National Football League coming up in just a moment. Tyler Sullivan of CBSSports.com. Let's take a look at the Jaguars and the Colts. I also want to look around the AFC South. Look around what's going on in the National Football League. You look at those Week 1 scores. We had a tie, right? Indianapolis-Houston. You had, 2 or 3 one-point games. You had a couple of overtime games. The parity in this league is absolutely incredible. The parity in the NFL, incredible. It was a great Week 1. Hopefully Week 2 will be just as good. Tyler Sullivan, CBSSports.com, coming up in just a moment. Again, we are streaming for your viewing pleasure on YouTube. Go to 1010XL's YouTube channel. You'll see Hacker After Dark there until 10 o'clock tonight. Be sure and like and subscribe while you're there. Also on the 1010XL Twitter page, you will see Hacker After Dark there until 10 o'clock this evening. With Dylan Denmark, the Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. More National Football League talk, more college football talk, all coming up with you till 10. Hacker After Dark on a Wednesday. And Jacksonville, as always, we're glad you're with us.
1010XL brings the swamp to the First Coast.
10-5 touchdown Gator.
Next up, USF. Kickoff at 7:30. Pre-game coverage starts at 4:30.
Chop, chop, chop.
on Jacksonville's home of Florida Gators football. 1010XL.
Hacker here. Y'all know I like food, and so I love the new Boteco Sports Bar and Grill on Belfort Road. Try some of your lunch and dinner favorites with a Brazilian flair, and bring the whole family to Boteco, your neighborhood bar on Belfort Road.
So I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 5-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $30,000 a year, and right now graduate making over $80,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition and no student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted into the program, your only costs are the books and the course fees, around $700 a year.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Hacker here from my friends at Xfinity with incredible news when it comes to internet. If you want it all like I do, there's a new way to save with Xfinity. Now get Xfinity Internet for 12 months with unlimited data and Wi-Fi equipment included, plus a free 4K streaming box and one line of unlimited mobile, all for just $75 a month with no annual contract required. That's the Xfinity 3-for-1 bundle. Switching to Xfinity has never been easier. It's risk-free, and you get all the Wi-Fi power your family needs for a house full of connected devices. This is a limited-time offer. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto-pay with a stored bank account. New fast internet customers only. Xfinity Mobile requires post-pay. Xfinity Internet. Go to Xfinity.com/3-for-1. Call 1-800-XFINITY or do what I did and visit an Xfinity store today.
Googans, do you suffer with neck or back pain? My friend Dr. Alan Nathans at Disc Centers of America on Bay Meadows Road helps people diagnosed with bulging, herniated, and degenerated discs, sciatica, or stenosis. Dr. Nathans uses that DRX 9000 non-surgical spinal decompression table to gently unbulge and unherniate discs that are causing sciatica. Don't do another cortisone injection. Stay active and healthy as you get older. Dancing at 50, golf at 60, the river run at 70. Yes, yes, and yes. DrNathans.com.
Are you getting hit hard with higher costs and higher interest rates? Is your credit card rate going up every month? Hey, it's Prosser here. How'd you like to wipe out those credit cards before the holidays? It's time to call Loan Pronto, because your home equity can rescue you right now. Your home value is still way up, and there's a ton of cash that you can get now. Loan Pronto specializes in zero-cost cash-out home refis. You can get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. Pay off all those credit cards, consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut around $800 from their monthly budget. And even if your home mortgage rate goes up a little, it's offset by your current credit card rate going to zero. And when rates come back down, Loan Pronto will refinance you again for free. So don't wait. Call Loan Pronto. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments altogether. Call 904-999-1508. Call Loan Pronto at 999-1508. That's 999-1508. Equal housing lender, MLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Tom Casey here with Griffin Service. As I look around Jacksonville, I see plumbing that can be held together better by duct tape, electrical work that can double as a shock collar, and AC work I know costs an arm and a leg on your utility bill. Save $1 today, but it costs you $10 down the road. At Griffin, we don't think you want, or maybe even know, you're hiring El Cheapo and cut rate work. So, if you need plumbing, AC, or electrical help, and you want it done right, call GriffinService.com and know you're getting the best.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
Play poker and help families in the Hold'em for Life Texas Hold'em Poker Tournament. Saturday, September 17th at Blessed Trinity Parish Hall. Call 847-778-8824.
To register for Police Athletic League flag football, cheerleading, and boxing, go to jaxpalsports.org.
The Amelia Island Charity Golf Tournament and Concert featuring Morgan Evans is Friday, October 21st. It benefits Folds of Honor, and you can sign up at foldsofhonoraigolfevent.org.
The Hometown for Heroes Home Buyers Program helps you get your down payment and closing costs paid. Call to learn more. 574-7180.
The Wounded Warrior Project provides what medicine and technology can't: community, counseling, and a second chance. Find ways to help at woundedwarriorproject.org.
If you're involved in a community event and you'd like us to help spread the word, find out how at 1010XL.com.
When it comes to commercial fence services, Superior Fence and Rail has you covered. If your business needs automatic gates or security fence and railings, trust Superior with your next commercial project. Superior's team delivers great communication, high-quality products, and exceptional customer service. Just read any of their 2,300-plus reviews.
When you're on the fence about a fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
Pickett here for Zero Res. Fall's my favorite time of the year. It's cooling down outside. It's perfect weather for having your carpets and tile clean. For September, get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $129, and Zero Res will clean a 4th room free. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards, the right way to clean.
Royal Pest Services, a local company you can trust. Royal Pest is a certified installer of tap insulation, which stands for thermal, acoustic, and pest control. Reduce that electric bill by adding pest protection. It's that easy. Online at royalpestservices.com.
Sometimes it's hard to control the passion when it comes to watching the Gators. Oh yeah, I've got opinions. I'm Hayes Carline, and I'll give you my instant reaction after the Gators game. Brought to you by Griffin Service. They fix what others can't.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. Now,
hello.
Another great guest on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Week 2 in the National Football League on the horizon. Of course, the Jaguars have their home opener as they welcome in the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday at 1 o'clock. You'll hear the game right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Let's look back on Week 1. Let's look ahead to week number 2 with Tyler Sullivan from CBSSports.com. Tyler, thank you for the time, man. How are you?
No problem. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back in the swing of things. Week 1 down, week 2 coming up. I love it.
Yeah, look, this past week was insane. You look at the final scores. We had a tie, Indianapolis-Houston, a 21-20 slugfest between the Giants and the Titans. Cleveland and Carolina came down to the final field goal. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati almost had another tie. That came down to the end of overtime. Atlanta blows a 16-point lead to New Orleans in the fourth quarter. You want to talk about the definition of parity, Tyler. Man alive, the NFL had it in week number 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, again, great to have football back, but also, like you said, the parity around the league is insane. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl last year vying for a championship against the Rams, and all of a sudden it's an overtime game. They can't kick a field goal, and Pittsburgh walks away with it. And then you look at the Super Bowl champions and the Rams on Thursday, even go back to the opener, they fall in this one. So the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last year find themselves 0-1 to start the season, which, again, just goes to show you the parity that's going on in the league.
Tyler, there's no such thing as moral victories, obviously, and one of the big topics here in Jacksonville, and I hate to even bring this up, but yeah, they lost to Washington, but the thought around here is, look, you trail 14-3 in the second quarter in the last couple of years as a Jaguar fan, you're going to be down 31-3 pretty quick. The fact is the Jaguars then scored 19 unanswered. Now, they blew that in the fourth quarter, and Washington came back to win the game. But in a losing effort, even though it was a losing effort, I still feel, and many around here feel, that the Jaguars showed some obvious improvement from where they've been in years past.
Yeah, I would say that too. Again, you're talking about a team that, we're not talking about them to be a legitimate contender in the AFC right now. They have to build that foundation to get into that conversation. They have the pieces now in place, obviously, with Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson now with one game under his belt in Jacksonville. You have to start to build that culture, build that foundation. And like you said, as much as you want them to pull out the win in that situation, the fact that they were even able to overcome a halftime deficit, to get a lead, again, obviously give it up, but to put themselves in a position to win that type of a football game isn't something that we've been able to say about the Jaguars in recent years, especially going into last year. And so for me, there are encouraging things that you can look at. And for me, more importantly, it's not like Washington straight up just blew them out in the second half. I kind of felt like the Jaguars lost that game. They were the better team, in my opinion. They were plenty of opportunities there. Obviously, you can't allow the 2 touchdowns towards the tail end of the game, but obviously there were things that they could have controlled to win that football game. I mean, you just look at the most basic thing, penalties, 13 penalties for 90 yards. That's putting you in positions to not win the football game. But those are correctable. Those are correctable things that Doug Peterson can kind of coach out of this team. It's not like you're lacking some sort of offensive or defensive weapon that's preventing you from winning these games. Penalties and turnovers and things like that are going to kind of keep you out of the win column. And for me, at least from a penalties perspective, you can coach that out of them. I think Doug Peterson will do that. And so, again, encouraging, but there are certainly signs of improvement. For Trevor Lawrence, especially, that ETN throw that should have been a touchdown is one thing that you can look back on and say, all right, there are still ways that he can get better in this offense. But overall, I am with you. There are things that you can be encouraged about with the Jaguars, even though they start out the year 0-1.
Tyler Sullivan, CBSSports.com, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. I'll tell you, one of the other refreshing things, Tyler, is when you actually spend money on guys and they produce. On Sunday, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram, the 3 big free agents, 16 catches for 200 yards against Washington. And Kirk had 117 of that himself on 6 grabs. So the guys that they paid money to bring in here really showed out in week number 1.
Yeah, not even that. On top of those guys cashing in on the investment that the organization made on him this offseason, you even look at their recent draft picks. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to have the microscope under him all year, but Travis Etienne, yes, should have had that touchdown. But overall, again, played well behind James Robinson, maybe a little bit less than folks were thinking about in from the national perspective, but you're still averaging over 10 yards per carry, a factor in the passing game. Like I said, could have had that touchdown if Lawrence hit him in stride there. But then you even look at this recent draft class. Trayvon Walker was able to get in on the action too. So not only are you getting those free agents that are working for you and living up to their big billing that they were paid this offseason, but the guys that you drafted. And that to me is the most important thing, because that's the real, center of a Super Bowl champion. Yes, you can buy pieces that help you along the way, but it's very hard for a legitimate perennial playoff contender to buy their way into a contending roster. You can get those pieces that help you along the way, but it needs to be the Lawrences, the ETNs, the Walkers, the Devin Lloyds, those kind of guys that are your pillar, your spine to your overall foundation. And for those guys to play well, I think is just as important as the Kirks and all those guys producing well in week 1.
Tyler, when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, they come in here on Sunday for the Jaguars home opener. Boy, weird game against Houston. Houston beating them 20-3. The Colts look terrible. The Colts come storming back to tie the game. And yet, in talking to people in Indianapolis this week, reading some of the headlines in Indy this week, they feel they let one slip away in overtime. So they're probably not feeling great. Even though they came back in the fourth quarter, they feel like they probably should have won that game in Houston that ultimately ended up in that tie.
Yeah, no, I'm right there. I mean, the Texans are not expected to be a contending football team. Meanwhile, the Colts, they are in the sleeper discussion of, all right, well, you never know. If Matt Ryan figures it out, they were a quarterback away from getting to the playoffs last year. Obviously, you guys down in Jacksonville know that quite well, what happened with Carson Wentz in that Week 18 game. If all of a sudden Matt Ryan figures this out and is a little bit more of a steady hand on the wheel, this could be a team that goes in deep into the playoffs. And so you're not expecting to all of a sudden be down 20-3 going into the fourth quarter against the Houston Texans team. Yes, you got to give them credit for making that comeback, but overall, you have some questions about how this team is going to be able to execute on a more consistent basis. And obviously, they have the pieces of Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, but it's those other pieces that need to play well. Because as much as we're praising them for coming back in all of that, Jonathan Taylor, 161 yards on 31 carries. Michael Pittman, 121 yards receiving. You can't ask those guys to do that on a weekly basis. They have obviously the ability to do so, but you're not going to win football games with just 2 players on the offensive skill position side. You need a full complement, a third, fourth option to help move those chains. So for me, that's what I think is going to have to be looked at here with Indianapolis. Letting that one, slide. I would even say, a tie is still letting it slide. Yes, you were able to kind of help your way back into this game and make it a tie as opposed to going 0-1. But still, this is far from the Colts team that we thought was going to be the case going into the year.
Tyler Sullivan, CBSSports.com. Tyler, in your experience covering the league, when you look at the head coaching matchup here on Sunday, boy, you want to talk about familiarity. Doug Peterson and Frank Reich, they know each other. From their time in Philadelphia, they were both on that Super Bowl winning team. Obviously, Peterson as the head coach, Reich as the quarterback coach. How is that dynamic, you think, going to work because the two head coaches are so familiar with one another?
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating kind of duel. I mean, I'm up here in New England, and so we're very much anticipating seeing Josh McDaniels go up against Bill Belichick in Las Vegas later on this season, because it is that student versus the master. How does that kind of, work? Is it a wash just because, well, just as much as Doug Peterson knows about Frank Reich knows all about Doug Peterson. And so those tendencies are very much on the table for everybody. It will be interesting to see how that goes out. For me, I look at it more as a wash just because, like I said, all the cards are on the table. It's not like, Frank Reich's holding something back all these years under Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. And obviously Doug Peterson, when they're going for a Super Bowl, it's not like he's holding anything back thinking that, okay, well, maybe Frank Reich's going to get a head coaching job someday and I want to go against them and use X, Y, and Z. That's just not how these coaches operate. So for me, I put it as a little bit of a wash, but from a defensive standpoint, obviously, they're going to be heavily involved in terms of the game planning, saying, listen, this is his tendencies. This is what he likes to do on third down. This is what he likes to do on second and short. This is what he likes to do in third and short, third and long. Those are the things that are going to be interesting to kind of see how those chess pieces go. Not so much of it being like, okay, this is what this guy's going to do. It's Doug Peterson knowing that Frank Reich knows what he wants to do and how does he make that next chess move, which is one of the things that's going to be fun.
Tyler, as we begin to wrap up, the AFC South, two teams played each other, and yet nobody won a game. Tennessee lost to New York. Jacksonville lost to Washington. As we mentioned, the tie between Indianapolis and Houston. We thought the division might be down coming into the year, one of the worst in the league. It certainly didn't disappoint in week number 1.
Yeah, it's funny, when you see all the zeros in the win column, you're just like, what? What's going on? I mean, usually this is reserved for some sort of weird NFC East kind of stat. Usually it's a little bit different looking at the AFC South. But again, this is a wide open division, I still feel. Obviously Indianapolis maybe didn't impress right out of the gate, but obviously Tennessee's still going to be part of the discussion despite that loss to the New York Giants in week 1. I still think the Jaguars, if they hit right, you never know what can happen. I think that this is probably the best sort of outcome for them because they feel pretty good coming out of week 1 saying, hey, listen, we kind of had that game. And despite the loss, it's not like we're immediately behind the 8 ball going into week 2. We're still kind of in this discussion. We're all still kind of figuring out and working out the kinks within the division. And so it's still wide open. I would still put Indianapolis as the favorite, but I still, for me at least, Jacksonville is a dark horse if they hit right, because I do think that they have the pieces now and, more importantly, the head coach that can get them over the hump.
Indianapolis hasn't won down here since 2014. That's just weird, right? This is like an anomaly. Jacksonville's been horrible, and yet Indianapolis cannot seem to win here. And it's curious as to, why that is. I guess some streaks in the NFL are hard to explain, and that's one of them.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where for some reason, the environment, the colors of the jersey, the stadium, whatever it is, it just doesn't produce winning football for Indianapolis. But it's not totally uncommon. Yes, this is a pretty remarkable streak that they're on going down to Jacksonville and struggling. But you see it across the league. Like, the Patriots struggled to go down and face the Dolphins in Miami. You have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are perennial Super Bowl champions over the last few years with Tom Brady. They have been unable to beat the New Orleans Saints at all during Tom Brady's tenure in Tampa Bay. It's just one of those weird kind of quirks that we see in the NFL. For whatever reason, these teams, when they get into these settings, whether it's just super familiarity or whatever the case may be, they just can't pull out that win. So again, it's just kind of one of those, you throw your hands up and you say, hey, listen, this is the NFL. It's that any given Sunday type of mantra, that cliche, but it does hold true where, hey, you just never know what's going to happen when you get down in Jacksonville with the Colts and the Jags.
All right, Tyler, final question. Aside from Jacksonville and Indianapolis, give us another game or two this week that really gets you fired up. The Week 2 schedule, what are you looking forward to?
Well, let's just look at the first one on the docket. I mean, for me, you look at the Chargers going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, two teams that are picked by a lot of people to possibly come out of the AFC, let alone the AFC West. And for all the talk about Kansas City losing Tyreek Hill, losing Tyrann Mathieu, and all this division getting so much better with the Denver Broncos getting Wilson, the Chargers getting J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack, the Raiders getting Devontae Adams, bringing in Josh McDaniels. The Chiefs, they lose all these guys, and what do? They go out in week one, throw five. Patrick Mahomes throws 5 touchdowns and just looks absolutely insane like a Madden video game player in that win over the Cardinals. And so for me, this is a fascinating game because the Chargers, I think, are the biggest threat to them in that division. And if all of a sudden they go into Arrowhead Stadium and the Chiefs continue to look like they looked in week one and really make little brothers out of the Chargers, well, then this is not as competitive as a division as we thought. It's the Chiefs running away with it, or at least setting themselves up to run away with it. And then it's a conversation about the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders fighting for one of those wild card spots. So for me, one of the storylines, the offseason storylines that could get brushed out of the way pretty quickly is if the Chiefs handle them in Thursday Night Football here.
Tyler Sullivan, CBSSports.com, as we are on the doorstep of week 2 in the National Football League. Hey, Tyler, know you're busy this time of year, man. Thank you for the time. We'll talk again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
It's the intersection where they shift gears.
And this is when he's at his best in the open field.
Listen for the Tire Outlet Drive of the Game on 1010XL.
That was an opportunity to bust this game open.
Tire Outlet. Wholesale prices, premium service.
Congratulations to Exit Real Estate Gallery and their continued support of the Jacksonville Jaguars. As a proud partner since 2016, Exit's unwavering commitment to the Jaguars illustrates their commitment to the North Florida community. A trusted local leader in real estate, Exit's footprint spans throughout the region with 7 offices and over 400 realtors to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to sell, buy, or rent local real estate, an Exit agent is always available to assist.
Men suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE? Regardless of age or past medical history, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Prime Men's Medical Center. And for a limited time, your consultation and first treatment are totally free. Call now, 904-664-8217.
What I would tell people is that you don't have to be in pain anymore.
Meet Dr. Justin Garzone, Medical Director at QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in using advanced regenerative medicine to give people